Well, hello, White Sox fans, and welcome to another edition of White Sox Daily Life. My name is Ian Eskridge. I'm here with my co-host, the Danny Miller. How you doing, Danny?
Well, if you're watching the White Sox right now, you're probably doing a lot like me and you're not happy with what you're watching. But it's a hiccup after an eventful week of White Sox baseball, so I'm not going to be too hard on them. And here we are sitting on a Monday, May 8th evening, and gotta say, pretty excited about what's going on in the world of the Blackhawks right now. So, little something something happening on the Connor Bedard front.
Yes, indeed. If you are unaware, whoa, the Blackhawks won the draft lottery, and they have the number one pick in the NHL draft. So that's exciting. Pretty stoked about that. So that's good. Um, I mean,
How
it's
you
pretty
doing, man?
much a foregone conclusion that it's going to be Bedard, I would imagine. But
I mean, if it isn't, there might be some questions raised, but who knows what happens between now and then.
it's true. I mean, they could pull a Bears and then trade down for the ninth pick or whatever.
Highly unlikely in hockey,
Yeah,
especially during this draft.
would hope
The
not.
the top two or three spots are pretty highly coveted players. I don't think you're going to, especially the top two. Honestly, I don't think you're going to trade away for and with a club like the Blackhawks that's in basically a state of full on rebuild at the moment. This is the building block that they could have hoped for.
Yeah,
So
you don't trade possible generational talent away when you have the chance to get it. You know,
absolutely,
especially considering that both Tays and Kane have finally done their last runs with the team. They need to refresh and get something out there. So I don't see them
yeah. I
doing anything
remember
dumb.
when the Kane leaving the Hawks this year, there was thoughts that there could possibly be a reunion next year, being that he was unrestricted free agent. But since then, we all pretty much know that they've closed the book on that, and both sides seem to think that they've gone their separate ways for good. So, Connor Bedard. Well, if the Hawks had gotten two and had a chance at what's his name, Fantilli or whatever is, the other guy. I'm drawing a blank on Fantilli. Yeah, I think that's what his name is.
Chantilly lace.
Anyway, yeah, something like that. Would have been happy with either one of those. But right now, it's looking like Connor Bedard. Connor Bedard, baby.
Bedard. Bad for Bedard. Looks like they did play bad for Bedard, and it worked. Barely,
Absolute.
because they certainly tried to win win a little bit too much there for my liking at the end, down the stretch. So,
Well, it's the difference between the Blackhawks and the White Sox. The Blackhawks have a very good developmental system, as opposed to the White Sox, who seem to be lacking in that department. Uh, and the Hawks seem to just have this rotating door of young players who can kind of come up and do something. Maybe they're not all exactly superstars, but they're all gamers, and they brought up some talent this year that you would think wasn't going to gel the way it did, but they never laid down and gave up. So good for them, to do what they did, and good for them to have a rookie head coach that pushed them to heights that they were not expected to make, even though they were the second lowest point getter in the NHL. We didn't expect to see some of the wins that they got this season. So
yeah. Yeah, it was just one of those things where, down the stretch, those were the ones that kind of made you nervous that, they weren't going to end up getting, a decent amount of
right,
ability to get that first pick. But hey, they got it. All good.
yeah. Well,
Um,
hello, welcome to Blackhawks Daily Live.
yeah, exactly.
I mean,
Well,
who
I
wants to
mean,
talk about the White Sox tonight, anyways?
yeah, I mean, after watching that inning just a few minutes ago, the White Sox are down 12-4 now, going to what is it, the top of the seventh, I think, or mid
We
seventh.
just entered the bottom of the seventh
Yeah, so
with Pasquatch here
yeah, White Sox losing
in the
12-4. Blah.
yeah.
But on the plus side of things, they have just won their first two series and in a row here. The last couple of days, went 2-1 against the Twins and 2-1 against the Reds. And the final game against the Reds was a laugher. They scored 11 runs in one inning. The issue being that they must have decided, the bullpen must have come together, or actually the entire pitching staff, because Cease was terrible today too. Um,
Yeah,
they must have just made a pact to give up as many runs as they scored yesterday. So, and unfortunately, they don't have a day off for a week now. So, it was I'm glad that Cease went as long as he did, but this bullpen is just the bullpen usage is just out of control. These starters, they can't go deep in games, and it's just costing the bullpen appearances. And I heard Benetti said a little while ago that Jimmy Lambert's on pace for 81 appearances. That's not good. And I know that a couple of the other guys have to be up around there as well. Although, with the way Bummer's, we've talked many times about Bummer being BABIP to death. Tonight was not that. He was just getting hit hard.
Like got beat like a drum.
Yep.
I'm sorry if I'm stammering a little bit here, but I sitting here watching that game, I couldn't think of anything really good to say about that performance tonight. He left some balls, over the heart of the plate, and they got hit hard.
Yeah, that's been a thing for, Cease a lot, pretty much a ton through the season so far, and that's why you see his numbers are just not there. People talk about his velocity being down a little bit. They talk about his slider not having quite as much, I
think that's the big thing. The slider. It just isn't breaking the same way as it had been.
Well, there's that, but it's also him just leaving pitches over the heart of the plate. I know I saw Jordan Lazowski saying, "Why are you throwing fastballs in the middle of the zone?" And it was just like a happening over and over and over again. And it's one of those things. It's just you watch it and you're just like, well, yeah, of course they're going to hit it hard because it's 96, 97 miles an hour over the heart of the plate, and it's not really, you're not getting a whole lot of movement out of it. It's just it's not going well for him so far. He's had a couple of appearances that have been pretty good, but there's been more clunkers than good so far this season. I would say, certainly not what was, not what happened last year, even close to that. So yeah, it's frustrating. Officer Doofy, this is the Kannapolis Q. This is the Kannapolis just wore these last week. For a couple of games during their series last week. Bring up Thompson and Mena, throw them against the A's or another crappy team and get their feet wet. Yeah, with the way Mena's been pitching, I wouldn't 100% not be surprised if he's in Charlotte in a couple of weeks with the way it's been going, because he's just looked really nasty.
Yeah. Yeah, Christian Mena is one of there's a few bright spots down in the farm right now, but he's definitely one of them. He's been a joy, at least to watch. As I do not have the MILB package, he's been a joy to watch in the White Sox daily recaps. Just really, really fun stuff going on.
Yeah, and like the thing, I noted last start was the lack of curveballs thrown, because that's been like one of the knocks on him for the last year plus, that he got most of his outs with the curveball, and he's obviously he's still getting outs with the curveball, but he's throwing more fastballs and more changeups, which is a very good development, because he needs to have all of those pitches working if he's going to make his way through the system. Um, yeah, especially like with the Knights, with um, Sean Burke not having enough room on he's not his pitch counts are getting elevated fairly quickly, and he's getting yanked pretty early. Um, he's coming back from injury, so that's to be expected. But the command hasn't necessarily been there, and that was one of the things about him in college is that there was a command issues, whether he was going to be able to continue to come here and have good command and whatever. And he had decent command so far. But so far this year, after the coming back from the injury, it just hasn't been there. So short outings. So I don't know. I kind of think that everybody had Burke pegged as the next guy who is going to make a run at the rotation. But as it stands right now, I mean, it's looking like Mena has a real shot to move. So we'll see what happens here in the near future. I think there's going to be some promotions and demotions coming here in the next couple of weeks, because it's getting to that time where they start moving some guys around. And I mean, they've been doing it so far, but it's been to move guys up to the major league roster, so they had to backfill spots.
Right.
Moving like Nate Mondu and a couple other guys around, which has worked out. I mean, some of the guys are doing well in Charlotte and doing well in Birmingham just from getting moved around. So,
I mean, I can't imagine a starting staff with the way Christian Mena has been pitching right now. I can't imagine what that starting staff is going to be like if he does get moved. And he's not even, he's going to be probably middle to the lower end of that rotation, especially when you've got Shanley pitching the way he is right now.
Yeah, he had a rough one.
It's going to happen. But you're not going to pitch perfect every game, but Garrett Shanley and Christian Mena on the same staff is going to be a wowzers kind of thing that I think it's going to be really enjoyable to watch.
I mean, there are some guys that are turning some heads. Mason Adams down in Kannapolis. He's been throwing in relief down there, and he's thrown like 4 innings, I think, twice in the last. He took over for. I think it was Tanner McDougal he took over for both times. And the last time that he just took over in the game, he pitched 4 innings, and I think he struck out 9. And his curveball is just disgusting. Yeah, I mean, there's been there are definitely some positive things going on the farm. There's some
you
stuff
talk about nasty curveballs. We showed the Tristan Stivers video a couple weeks back, and again, if you keep an eye on White Sox Twitter and White Sox Daily Live feed specifically, you're gonna catch some pretty good stuff from Tristan Stivers. That guy has got some filthy movement, man.
Yeah, it's gross. His curveball. I mean, like Mason Adams is like. It's pretty close.
Right there with him.
Yeah. Yeah, and the thing is that he's throwing like 4 innings. So, I wouldn't be surprised if he's if they're getting him ready to, finally start some games. The problem is in Kannapolis, they got a ton of guys that can start. So, there's been not that there's been a shortage of innings per se, because there's been some clunkers out there, in some of the starts. But the thing is that, when a guy goes and gets yanked, after like 0.2 innings pitched or something like that, it's like, well, guys got to get up and start getting warm and everything, and it ends up going to bullpen guys and whatever. But yeah. Says Officer Doofy says you have a starter and piggyback, so if you notice they all share the same amount of innings. Yeah, no, yeah, for sure. There is a lot of that. There's a lot of those. Unfortunately, Peyton Paulette, he had a short outing, his last outing, only made it .2. And like the home plate umpire was pretty, it was kind of like trying to throw through a teacup.
Unforgiving.
But
Yeah.
yeah, he says it hurts the relievers though. Yeah, I mean that's true. But I mean with Kannapolis in particular, there are a couple of bullpen guys that Billy Seidel is there. You've got him closing games down there. There's a couple of guys in the bullpen that I'm worried about getting innings. There's a lot of guys that I'm not worried about them not getting innings. Kind of the guys that I didn't name any names at this point, but I think there's a couple of guys who are gonna phase themselves out within the next year or so. So
Well, and I mean that's really what that's what these A level parts of the system are for. Really, you're gonna see the guys who just weren't gonna quite make it uh, find their way into other areas of employment. It just is what it is. Especially when you're drafting young, like the White Sox have been in recent years. You're going to see some of those guys just weed themselves out of the system on their own. But as we've been saying, there is a contingent of talent down there that looks you know pretty promising at this point. As they progress to the levels, some of those names that we're watching now might change some. The jump from even advanced A to double A is quite a leap. Because as we've talked about in streams past, uh, in low A and advanced A, there's an age range that's usually a little bit more of a gap than say double A and triple A, where you've got high school players or guys that are recently out of high school playing with guys who are have been through a few years of college and maybe even into their early 20s with some of these guys who are, late bloomers, where you don't see that as much in double A and triple A, unless, of course, we're talking about the age gap between, overage veterans playing against youngsters. That's really the only time you're going to see that. But, uh, as these guys kind of move up into double A and triple A, you might see a couple more of them weed themselves out, but there is a lot of promise. There really is a lot of fun happening down there at the lower levels.
oh yeah,
I mean, the Dash have just been rolling.
yeah,
The Dash, leading the league right now in a lot of categories, not just wins. So,
yeah. Well,
just
I mean,
fun to.
unfortunately, like this is like I get it. Like one of the top comments I get is and Dan Victor, our Dan Victor has said the same thing, is that Tim Elko should not be at Candy anymore. And I gotta say, yeah, 100%. I agree that the competition for him at Kannapolis is a little bit lacking. I mean, he was SEC guy. Was great in the College World Series run. Playing on a
Yeah,
torn
he's just
ACL
just
and
making his way back
yeah,
to
exactly.
uh,
But
game speed.
the thing about it is you've got people complaining that he's still in Kannapolis, saying that he should be called up, and I think some people think, that he should be called up to the major leagues, but like the thing is that he's got the guy playing first base in Winston-Salem right now is or at least one of the guys that does play first base on a fairly normal thing is DJ Gladney, and Officer Doofy just mentioned it as well. He says Elko has nowhere to go. DJ got hot at the same exact time, and somebody has to go to Double A. So that's exactly it. Is that somebody has to go to Double A first to open up a spot there, and I mean, we're still early in the season, but DJ Gladney cooled off a little bit this week, and it wasn't that he didn't hit the ball hard a few times. It's just that the hits weren't falling, and he did strike out a few times more than he has so far. So he cooled off a little bit, but I mean, I assume that he's probably going to be between him and Wilfred Veras, and Terrell Tatum, all three of those guys deserve to, move up and play against some better competition. And in order for, these, the guys that are a little bit older, in Kannapolis, for them to go up, somebody's got to vacate a spot for them to be able to have, playing time. They don't want to move somebody up to a place where they're not going to be able to play. So it doesn't make sense to move these guys yet. And until you move somebody at the higher levels, what sense does it make? So
Right.
yeah, Officer Doofy says Elko should be in Double A and prove he can hit the breaking pitch consistently. Yeah, I mean, yeah, sure. I mean, I don't know. I'm kind of the thought process in the lower levels is that I want to see them do it on a level per level basis. In my personal opinion, is that I'd like to see from him go to Kannapolis and then go to Advanced Day. And, if he still puts up nice numbers, I mean, I'm not saying he has to put up a 970 OPS or whatever it is that he's got right now. He doesn't have to put that up in Winston-Salem, but, if he's still cruising at like a 880, 900, then you bump him up again, see if he can continue to do it,
Yeah. Do you think Coach Barquette shares in that train of thought as far as progressing to every level?
Well, I mean,
And I'm only asking this because I know that you have a little bit, even if it's the smallest of relationships with Coach Barquette. I know you've had some conversations with them. I'm just thinking that maybe you might have a little insight on what he feels.
I haven't talked to
And
him this year. He's been kind of MIA, and he's like I don't blame him whatsoever. I mean, there's so many guys that he's working with right now, and you've seen some really nice stuff from a lot of these hitters, and I mean, just like one of the things that was addressed was Yoelqui Cespedes' willingness to swing at pitches outside the strike zone, and that's calmed down quite a bit this year. The issue being that there's still swing and miss there at pitches in the zone, not not to mention the pitches that are out of the zone that he still does swing at, but the walk rate's up significantly, and that was like one of the things that they tabbed that they wanted to work with him on, and it's worked. And like there's a lot of things that Barquette's doing really, really well down there with these guys and developing them. But
Uelke needs some of those orange tinted contacts like AJ had.
yeah. Let's see, Officer Doofy. It's just so hard in low and high A because pitchers are so inconsistent that 1AB you're seeing the strikes, the next you pray for your life you don't get drilled. Well, yeah, 100%. Yeah, 100%. It's I mean, you see it with especially, like if you watch it enough, you see it even from the best guys, and like like Matthew Thompson. He could go for 5 innings, just littering the strike zone with baseballs, with his breaking ball, with his fastball, with his changeup, slider, like all that stuff is hitting in the zone or, very late movement out of the zone. But then there'll be an inning where he can't get out of his own way, and the consistency just isn't there for a lot of these guys. You can see the stuff, but the consistency is one of those things that's like one of the last things to develop. So that's why I don't personally freak out when I see a bad start or two. Now if we we talk about guys that are consistently walking guys all over the place, which we've seen in numerous times.
We don't want to talk about that.
Yeah, no.
That's you're not gonna put that stink on the show tonight, man.
No. Yeah, we'll keep that out of
The
here.
Sox have put enough stink in one inning on my mood. So,
well, at least they scored a run. Hanser Alberto, RBI, knocks in Luis Robert, who got hit by a pitch. So we got that going for us.
Yeah, always good to see. we talked about how the Sox had, they had finally won 2 series back to back. And it's only been a week since our last show. And I think I kind of said like towards the end of that show last week, like let's start. We were talking about the goals for the White Sox and the uptick, and hopefully turning things around. I even threw that, goofy power of 10 things out there, the numbers and the stars and whatever. But one of the things we said was let's start with winning 2 games back to back. And they did that. And then they won a series. And then they won 2 series. And I don't know if maybe it was just a strength of schedule thing, as we've talked about a little bit. They did run into some lesser teams here as of late, as opposed to, the teams that they had been facing. I don't want to, say that they're bum slaying by any means, but oh no, you turn your eyes away from the TV.
Oh, I'm not.
You're about to see one of the worst botch plays
John
by a
John Rudels has taken over the TV with NHL playoffs, which I can't say that I necessarily blame him because Luis Robert
Let's just
error,
say
huh?
Luis Robert, yeah, just I mean, if you're gonna do that, you might as well do, 7 or 8.
Yeah, just blow it all in one night and give up 20
Get it
runs,
out.
and
Yeah,
then
get it out of your system now.
like Grimtall says, let's see how they respond tomorrow. And like the thing is, I don't. The one thing that I definitely don't want to see is I don't want to see them split with the Royals. But I'll take that over losing 3 to the Royals. But I'd like to see them win 3 out of these out of the 4 here. But it's looking like they're going to have to win 3 in a row and able to be able to do that. So.
Well, the Sox get the sticks one more time, and unless they come alive, that's exactly what we're going to be hoping for here.
Yeah, I mean, if they score 7, 8 runs, I'll be pretty shocked. But hey, they do have a bullpen that has an ERA pretty close to the White Sox, so it's entirely possible that they could give up that many runs. I think they are 1 spot ahead of the White Sox in bullpen ERA.
Sounds right.
Yeah, no bueno. Ooh, batter timeout with 2 strikes. Did that just happen?
I think it did.
Oh, that would be amazing. Strikeout on a batter timeout? On 0-2? Oh, okay. All right. No. It was batter timeout for the second. No, because that was 96.9. Then what the heck is this batter timeout thing? Why does it say batter timeout on game day? What the heck? Anywho.
Maybe it was 1-2. No, it sure looked like it was after 0-2.
Yeah.
He stepped out of the box.
Well, they gave him a second chance, apparently. They said, no, you get more chances. You don't have to be out. So, yeah. We had 2 affiliates go 4-2 this week. Dash and the Knights both went 4-2, which was very nice that the Knights did it because it was against the Braves AAA team, which actually has some, like some legit guys on the team. So that's nice, is that the Knights were able to, hold court, if you will, with the Stripers. So that was nice. I don't know. Did you happen to catch the game yesterday? The highlights for yesterday's game?
Some.
He scored 18 runs yesterday. Yoan Moncada went 3 for 3 with 2 singles and a home run. Scored, I think he scored 3 times and had 2 RBIs. And they took him out behind the woodshed, gave him a whooping. So that was nice. Yeah, the Dash played the Pirates Advanced A team, and they've got some guys on that team that are like legit prospects. One of which being trying to think of who the pitcher was yesterday. He's their seventh ranked prospect. And I'm trying to remember what they ended up losing the game yesterday because
If you're as bad as the Pirates have been for the last few years, you better have at least a handful of guys down there at the low end. You know, who are possibly could be somebody.
yeah, there is a bit of that. Bubba Chandler, he's their seventh ranked
Oh,
prospect, starting pitcher. The Dash chased him twice this week and
nice.
knocked him out of the game. You know, obviously quicker than he would like. I don't remember how many runs they put on him, but they did a nice job. The unfortunate thing
So
is that
you're saying is formerly number ranked 7.
oh no, he's yeah. I mean the guy's got great stuff. But I mean, as far as advanced A teams go, that
Sorry,
Dash lineup is tough. You know,
watching this White Sox team makes me rip heaters like nobody's business.
no doubt. Yeah, they're
Quit smoking and start drinking.
yeah. I mean it's been certainly been an adventure. I mean, obviously tonight is terrible, but hey, I mean we did get at least a couple of decent series in a row, and
Yeah, we've seen
after
some pretty good baseball here
yeah
lately.
yeah yeah
I'm not mad about that.
yeah, and after we
I'm
talked
still remaining positive.
bad
Sorry.
about Luis Robert last week, he went out and he's basically got a 500 average over the last week. So I mean,
I said maybe we should call him dumb more often.
yeah, just pat ourselves on the back for that one.
He was listening. Somebody in the clubhouse was listening and said, "Look, these people are calling you dumb.
That's
They
probably
said
what
you're
it is.
stupid."
Yeah.
And he was like, "Oh well, you can't have that. Need to get motivated." So you're welcome. You're welcome, Luis, for giving you the motivation you needed to get out there and show us all how wrong we are.
I got a question for you. I've
Uh
seen
oh.
some people talking about the White Sox home run celebration with
Mm-hmm.
the jacket and the
The
hat.
hat. And, mm-hmm.
What's your take on that? Are you offended?
I'm not offended.
Yeah. All right.
I'm not exactly a huge fan. But I mean, if it makes these guys happy and they're having fun with it in the dugout, I'm all for whatever is making them come together and celebrate as a team. And every time one of them puts that jacket and the hat on, they're all smiles. Somebody just hit, a jack. And go ahead and do your thing, man. Do I think the jacket is gaudy? Absolutely. I'm not totally against the hat thing though. I mean, we are Chicago. This is a town that during especially during the years of prohibition was known as a gangster kind of town, you know what I mean? And that's a kind of a gangster get up, the
100%.
pinstripe jacket, and the fedora kind of gives you that old Al Capone gangster type feel. So for whatever, I'm here for it.
Yeah, I don't
Am
know
I a
what
huge
kind
fan? No. But
of. Yeah. I like the first time I saw it, I was like, "Oh, they're trying to look like 1920s gangsters." Okay. Um whatever. I don't particularly care. I find it entertaining. Um and like you said, if that's what these guys need, some sort of a home run celebration to get their stuff going, then fine, you know? Um
I mean, honestly, I know a lot of people are like, "Hey, bring back the home run chain," and I wasn't really a big fan of that one either. It was, it was like throwback to Flavor Flav in the '90s with the giant,
well, there's no clock
oversized.
on there.
It's not a clock, but it's the oversized medallion hanging from there, the White Sox medallion hanging from it. Just big and gaudy, and it downright ugly in my opinion. But I see these things walking around at the park now at games all the time. And you go to a game and probably a third of the fans in there are wearing them. So whatever, man. I mean, if that's what makes people happy, by all means, go for it, dude. Who am I to poo poo on your parade here?
Yeah. I'm in a chat with some Cubs fans, and two of them are at the game tonight. And Nico Horner apparently tweaked a hamstring, and it wasn't made. It wasn't abundantly clear from my friend's season tickets, and Ross put in Madrigal for Horner, and my friend in this chat is just going off on David Ross being an idiot for pinch running for Nico Horner with the midget, and Grimtall happily reminds me that Madrigal got thrown out at home by 27 feet again tonight. The base running has not matured. Still the same base running, which is unfortunate because, I had hopes for the guy that he was going to, be a, even after he got traded away. Like, I wasn't happy that it was with the Cubs, but I still thought that he was going to be a productive Major League Baseball player.
He's not even a starter at this point.
Yeah. I mean, it's because he, yeah, that whole thing. Yeah, it's not good. Meanwhile, my guy, Jared Kelenic, he's done some stuff, shown some power. And Bryce Terang's done some things. There's been some, that whole thing's frustrating. And the guy that he's playing behind now, Nico Horner, drafted, 20 spots behind him. And he's out there.
Was it that far? It was in the same first round of that same draft, but
yeah.
I didn't think it was that far.
And maybe it was like 15, but even still.
But, the funny thing is, and I had this conversation with another person that you and I actually spent the evening together with on that fateful night. We attended a draft party, and I had a conversation with this person earlier this week, and it was, could you imagine had the White Sox, it was brought up because we were just facing Cincinnati and Jonathan India and the things that he was doing against the White Sox. And Jonathan India was one of those guys that was draft boards that same year that Nick Madrigal was drafted. And I kindly reminded our friend that not only was Jonathan India somebody on our radar, but Jared Kelenic was in there. Trevor Larnach was in there. Bryce Terang was in there. I mean, there was a handful of guys that we were all kind of hoping the White Sox were drafted, and we ended up with a Lilliputian.
It's a Lilliputian. Yeah. Yeah, that was sad. I wasn't, I will say I was very entertained by the reaction that it got, but I had some other guys that I would have much rather had drafted. But oh well, what are you gonna do? It's one of those things that as a few more years pass, Nick Hostetler was the guy who was doing the drafting for the White Sox. And out of those drafts, you got Zach Collins, Nick Burdi, Carson Fulmer. It started with Collins. You got Berger the next year, which turns out that one was probably the best draft pick that he's made, other than Vaughn, I guess.
Solid.
Vaughn was his last one, I believe, but then you got Madrigal in there. Yeah, I don't know, man. There's just and then you promote him, or side shuffle him, depending on how you want to look at it, to pro personnel, and that's been hit or miss as well. So, kind of wonder at what point does the finger end up pointed in that direction? Especially with the way things have gone for this rebuild, that, I would think that the president and the general manager would be pointing their fingers in opposite directions instead of, with two fingers pointed back at themselves, So, you also obviously have to blame the development staff, which, if you hadn't noticed, the last 2 years, things have started to change a little bit more into the positive direction. So I don't know. So the thing about those Nick Hostetler drafts is that they were, some of the later rounds they did get some guys, but the all of the tanking guys, the years that the White Sox drafted really high because they were tanking, that's what you got. Nick Madrigal, Zach Collins, Zach Birdie. Got Jake Berger too, but
Yeah, Jake Berger. Well, I mean, Jake Berger was a second rounder.
no, he's first. First in
Was he first?
2017.
Oh no, you're right. You're right. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Who am I thinking of was a second rounder that's done something?
2000.
Oh, maybe Gavin Sheets.
I know Alec Hansen was a second rounder. I don't remember what year
I'm
though.
saying that yeah, it has to be Gavin Sheets.
Gavin Sheets was I believe,
right behind Berger, wasn't he?
I can't remember if he was Berger's year or if he was Zach Collins' year.
I thought he was Berger's year.
It might be
second
Berger's
round,
year.
then
Here,
Berger's year.
let's look it up.
Yeah, my mistake though on that. He was just thinking of
Yeah, he's
for
Berger's
somebody
year.
else, second rounder that's stuck with the team.
Yeah, Sheets. The thing is that the good thing about they drafted potatoes. They did draft potatoes. Yes, it's true. They should have at least 2 organization-changing guys from the draft when you had picks that high. I 100% agree.
Draft potatoes. I should just pause my video feed now.
But on the plus side is that Zach Collins was leading the International League with the AAA affiliate for the Guardians, leading in hits. So that's something, I guess. But Dan Victor told me not to be fooled, that he would not be hitting 389 all season, and I agreed. I think that's maybe overshooting what we think of Zach Collins is capable of. So, that travesty is over. If you were watching that White Sox game, I'm sorry. That was pretty terrible. Yeah, but he's like 37 now. He's not 37. Come on, man. I'm going to have to look it up now. He's not even, I think he's like, what, 28? That makes sense?
I don't know. Miker?
Oh, yeah. Did you see those tweets flying around? The Miker Adolfo on the Kansas City Monarchs playing against the Savannah Bananas?
Yeah. Miker gunning from the field.
Yep.
Showing off that cannon.
Yeah, still got that arm.
Dan Victor, wasn't it Dan Victor that threw out the tweet saying that, don't give up on him yet? He will be a major leaguer at some point. I mean, what is Miker now? 25? I think he's still pretty young.
I don't think
considering he feels like he's been around for forever today. 25 or 20, maybe 26.
Yeah, I think he's probably 26 is my guess, but 26, yep. So he'll be 27 in September. So,
I guess that's about the time they say that these kids these days reach their peak or start to enter their primes. But maybe Miker does get a chance somewhere.
Yeah, I mean, apparently there were some offers there, but I don't know. That apparently stuff didn't happen the way he wanted them to, and yeah, hopefully he does get a shot somewhere. I mean, as like a fourth outfielder, but the thing is that with how much time he missed over years and years and years, just the bat to ball skill had a lot of challenges because of that, didn't Courtney Hawkins turn into Hank Aaron in Indy Ball? Yes, Courtney Hawkins and Keon Barnum as well. Both of those guys in Indy Ball, they turned into Hank Aaron, I guess, if you want to say, or, whatever. They all hit like 30 plus home runs in Indy Ball. So,
yeah, independent league. So I mean,
yeah, well, hey, man.
level of talent is hey, I mean, they're still professional ball players. I'll give you that, but not exactly the same as double and triple A.
It is not.
Uh, yeah, they might turn into Hank Aaron there, but most of those guys, once they hit triple A, turn into pumpkins. So
Yeah. Grimtall, I would advise you to not go back and look at the first rounders year by year, because you're going to be in for a lot of pain if you do that. He brings up Aaron Pareda.
Why would you even bring it up? Why don't do that. Don't do that to yourself. Don't do it to us.
Yeah, I mean now that we're headed down that lane, I mean Lance Broadway, I mean, oof. And the thing is that there's lots of first rounders that Kyle McCullough. There's lots of first rounders with every team that don't make it.
Damn it, Jim. Good God, man.
But
I feel like what's his name on the old
Star Trek?
Star Trek.
Yeah. I mean, I will say,
God,
the first round picks not working out, it's not really all that shocking, because first rounders don't make it quite a bit, but you would think that when your team is played as badly as it has and had some nice draft picks, that there would be at least a little bit more to show than has been.
These aren't just your general first rounders either. These are third and fourth overall picks.
Well, a couple of them. Well, how about this? Fourth through 8 or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, Birdie was 8 or 9 actually. I thought he was 9. It might be 8.
I think Birdie was later. I thought
was he?
Birdie was a compensation pick in the first round, I thought.
Was he?
Comp pick.
Oh no, I'm sorry, not Birdie. I'm thinking of the other clown we just talked about, the pitcher that didn't make it. He's got a brother. We just talked about his name.
Birdie?
Now I'm drawing a blank.
He's got a brother?
No. Oh, yeah, he does have a brother. You're right. No, the other guy that's got a brother, Fulmer.
Oh, Fulmer's got a brother?
Yeah, Carson. Or no, maybe I'm confusing. He doesn't have a brother. There's no relation.
No relation between him and Michael Fulmer, who's the closer.
Actually, not even the same
Cubs.
spelling. There's one L versus 2. But right?
I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know. Anyway,
I thought Michael Fulmer was only one L, but I could be wrong.
Maybe I'm just stepping in it all over the place here, man.
Yeah,
wouldn't be the first time, right?
Yeah, it's one for both of them, but I mean,
no,
I
think he was 8 or 9 actually.
He was. I think both of those guys were both. Let me see here. Michael Fulmer. Let's see when he was drafted. Michael Fulmer, overall pick 44 for the Mets in 2011.
I think Carson was 8th or 9th overall.
Yeah, he was. Yeah.
9th, I want to say.
Yeah, that one was a. And the thing is that me and Grimtall have talked about this one at length. Is that as he is a Dodgers guy, he gets to not lately anyway, but the Walker Buehler thing, being on the same Vandy team as Carson Fulmer. Everybody had Carson Fulmer ranked above Walker Buehler at the time. All of the experts. He was picked 8th. Carson Fulmer. And Walker Buehler's obviously had a even with the nasty injury, still a much better career than Carson Fulmer. So I mean, it's
You
just one
don't
of the,
say.
yeah. Well, I mean, it's just one of those things, you know. I don't know whether the White Sox are to necessarily blame for that one, but it's generally not a good idea when you draft somebody to immediately try and change their mechanics as soon as they get there, especially when it's somebody
Yeah.
with a very um, customized, you know, delivery, if you'd
Yeah.
like to call it that. You know, it's a very personal thing just to him. Nobody else had that herky jerky thing, and yeah, we saw
Now
how
the
that worked
Sox,
out.
the Sox basically said, "Oh, we saw something like this out of Chris Sale, where his delivery was kind of weird, and we were worried he's going to get injured. We're not going to let that happen to you, so we're just going to break you right off the bat."
Yep.
Oh,
Speaking of Chris Sale, um, still waiting for Noah Schultz to make his debut. He's been dealing with some sort of, I believe, an oblique, if I remember correctly, what it was. But he's dealing with an oblique. We had Cannon come back from injury. We had Peyton Paulette come back from injury, rehabbing from Tommy John when we drafted him. He's been pitching. Tanner McDougal made his first start a few weeks back, probably about 3 weeks, a month ago, and he's had some good outings. He's also had some issues with command. Um, but some of those guys, you know, that we've been waiting to see are finally starting to throw. So hopefully we get no Schultz here at some point. Cause I'd really like to see that massive dude out on the mound.
yeah. I mean, he's got to. I can't imagine what the tunneling for him looks like when you're, what is it, 6'11" or whatever he is, 6'9", 6'9", right?
Oh, I think
I think it's maybe 6'11".
yeah. I think
He's up there.
yeah,
I just revert back to the picture in spring training of him walking
6'9", close
side by side
in the
with
middle. Oh, with
was it
Peyton
Noah
Paulette.
Schultz and Peyton Paulette
Yeah,
side by side, and it looked like Peyton Paulette could have been like his child walking next to him. You know, but
yeah. I mean, well,
yeah,
they like the body type was exactly the same. It's just that one was far larger.
right.
You know. Yeah, that guy's
So,
massive. I'm interested in seeing him, but we'll see when that happens. Um, Other guys dealing with injury. Colson Montgomery. He was rehabbing from one thing, and then another thing happened, and he has not made his way out yet. He's still on the IL for the dash. And then Brian Ramos as well. Also, after he tweaked his back in in spring training, and he hasn't made his way to an affiliate either. So, you know, it's just another one of those guys that waiting to see and hoping to see some, you know, I mean, Ramos looked great in spring training, so I can't imagine that he's going to come back and look terrible. So, you know, you muted?
sorry. I'm
You're
sure you
unmuted.
see.
There you are.
I'm unmuted. I was muted. Previously. I have a sick dog who's got some dementia, and she's doing her dementia thing at nighttime. She's over here wandering around and getting into things and looking confused. So I had to mute myself while I got the dog's attention. So I apologize for that,
Oh,
folks.
all good. Yeah. So I don't know. We'll see. There's still, we haven't seen, just like with the Major League Ball Club, we haven't seen all the guys that we're supposed to be seeing in the minors either. So, hopefully within the next couple of weeks here, we finally get to lay eyes upon these guys for the first time this season. Other than spring training, I don't count that. So,
No, always nice to look forward to something new to talk about around here. And you only hope that these guys continue to develop the way that we all hoped for. These are not small names that we're talking about here. These are guys that are hope to have big potential. So definitely looking forward to seeing more from all of them, really.
Yeah, I mean, there's been some good things. Jose Rodriguez looks like he's turning a little bit of a corner. He started a little bit slow to start season. He's hit a couple of home runs here in the last week, and Yoelqui Cespedes has hit a few home runs as well. So I think he leads the Barons in home runs right now. I think he's got like 4. There hasn't been
Nice.
there's been the offense in Birmingham has not taken off as much as I had hoped.
Well, and power's always a little bit down in Birmingham, just because of the park. That place plays like like a giant kind of coliseum type baseball park. So, uh, you know, I think when the bats come around, you probably still won't see a huge uptick in power, but you always hope for a little bit better batting average because of the larger park, and the bigger alleys and the gaps and left and center or left center and right center. You'd hope that these guys kind of spray the ball a little bit more in those gaps, keep those outfielders running around a little bit, but it just hasn't come to fruition as of yet.
Yeah, I think there's due to the lack of power bats, I think some of the guys that are in the order have been maybe pushing a little bit harder trying to be that guy, and it's not necessarily 100% their strength. And
Right.
like Luis Mieses last year led the Sal in doubles, and he did hit some home runs. But his bat slowed down a little bit in Birmingham, and who's to know what exactly the issue is? Whether it's he's trying to hit the ball over the fence too much, trying to compensate because the Barons' record hasn't necessarily been there very well, so far this year. So I mean, is it that he's pushing to do that? That everybody's pushing to try and hit home runs? Who knows? So I don't know. We'll see what happens there. And like I said, Colson Montgomery, if he's healthy, that's going to do some shuffling. Whether it's moving somebody down to advanced day, whether it's moving somebody up to double A, or moving somebody to triple A, whether Brian Ramos comes back, whether that moves somebody one way or the other, and introduces a little bit more power to that lineup. Um, like we saw in Project Birmingham last year when they brought all these kids up from all these, from A ball, advanced A, and dumped them all into double A. Some of them were still hitting and still hitting home runs. So it's not like, these guys aren't capable of hitting for power. I think just the problem is that there's not protection in the lineup, so they're not seeing, they're not getting the respect that they were getting last year when,
Right.
You had 5 or 6 guys in the lineup that everybody said, okay, this guy can hit the ball hard and hit it out. So you don't have that kind of protection from the pitching. So the guys aren't afraid to throw those really nasty sliders on 3-2 because they know if they walk a guy that can hit the ball out, the next guy they're pitching to, they don't have to necessarily worry about as much, as more of a singles or doubles hitter. So,
Right.
minor league baseball talk. I figured
Yeah.
this was a nice night for it because nobody wants to talk about the White Sox. I mean, we did get
No.
some positive developments from them in the last week, um, but then they had to come
Yeah.
out tonight and do that nonsense and just take the wind out of those
Well,
sails.
and that the positive developments that did happen. I think we pretty much in a very short period of time covered them rather quickly because there isn't a ton to talk about. Luis Robert woke up a little bit. They strung together some wins. Uh, you know, uh, all fantastic things, but in the grand scheme of things, they're still well below 500, and trying to claw their way back into Central. So, you know, great to see some winning baseball. Enjoyable, fun to watch baseball. But I'm still in this state of, like I said early in the show, are we seeing better baseball? Are we just running into an easier strength of schedule? The rest of the month of May uh, is on the easier side when it comes to strength of schedule. So maybe we see them claw their way back even more. But, after watching some pretty inept baseball for some time, I think, I'll speak for myself, but I think I'm probably speaking for a lot of the fan base. And we're still in that state of, you got to show me more. You got to show me something, because that kind of a start early in the season, the month of April, is the kind of start that can not only knock you back a few notches, can almost put you out altogether. And we've said this before. The only reason that they're really, I mean, obviously we want to stay optimistic because this is our favorite baseball team, and we want to see them win some games. And aside from a 20 game winning streak, a la the A's, uh, really all I want to see is them come out and win a bunch of series. And if you can go 2 out of 3, 3 out of 4, which I mean that's a lot of winning baseball. But if you can do that over this period in May, where the strength of schedule is definitely on the weaker side, then maybe we can start discussing some things. But that April is the kind of baseball that you can knock yourself out of the playoffs rather quickly. And if it wasn't for that weak division, in a lot of other divisions, your season might have been over already. So that's that, man.
Well, I mean, one thing that I have heard is that if you win more than you lose, that's good. So that's what I'm going to hope for.
You know what? I've heard something similar, and that's all I'm hoping for myself.
I'm just a amateur statistician, but from my little experience that I do have, more wins than losses is generally good.
I mean, if we can get to 82 and 80 at the end of the season, it's a 1 game improvement on last year.
That's true with a first year manager. One thing that we haven't talked about, and I don't want to spend a lot of time on it, but what if you lose more than the Dodgers win? Yeah, what if? It's not going to happen. I'm telling you.
Yeah, I don't think that's even possible.
Yeah, because I mean, like the
Not with
Dodgers
this
are
team,
going to
anyway.
win probably going to end up still winning 95 games, and I don't see the White Sox losing 95 games. I mean, they could lose 87, 88, I guess. I mean, from what we've seen so far, if they don't really drastically turn around and get some nice winning streaks in here, they could absolutely lose 87, 88 games. But,
Well, and in order to do that, I think this team, and I'm gonna knock on wood when I say this here, but uh, you know, the injury bug is gonna have to continue to be a thing, because as we've seen, Tim Anderson comes back and provides a spark. And, like you said, Luis Robert starts to hit the ball, and we get a couple of guys back healthy. And, speaking of guys coming back healthy, Liam Hendricks is doing
oh,
his
well,
thing.
yeah, Moncada.
Yohan Moncada's doing his thing.
But
And, but, we lose Aloy for 4 to
4 to
6
6
weeks.
weeks. I
So
mean,
it never seems like we're getting over that hump where everybody, right. That look on your face right there. It just seems like you can't get the core group that was meant to be playing together every day when this team was built. And we talk about roster construction over and over and over. One of those subjects that's just never going to go away with this team the way it is right now. But if you have the healthy core group that was meant to play together for years and years, over and over, this team looks great on paper. Problem is we can't get that core group all together at the same time for more than a handful of games for the last few years. And now here we are in 2023, and we're going through the same darn thing. And granted, the Eloy thing, I mean, it's not like it's on the strength and conditioning staff. You know what I mean? Nobody can predict that Big Baby is going to go out with a burst appendix. You don't see those things coming. But
Yeah.
it's like, what in the actual, is there a curse? And I'm not one of those people that believes in curses, but
I'm not either, but I
there's
said it to
definitely a
Colton.
dark cloud.
Yeah.
What'd you say?
I told him, I was like, like when we heard that he told, we were driving the other day, and he told, he gets the alert on his phone that Eloy left with abdominal pain, and I was like, oh, it's an appendicitis. I was like, he's gonna have an appendectomy, and he's gonna be out for weeks. Like 2 hours later, news comes out, appendectomy. I was like, are you kidding? I mean, like, you can't even make this stuff up. I mean, and you talk about roster construction. At this point, it doesn't even. I mean, this is concerning the guys that aren't part of that roster construction talk. Because Eloy is supposed to be an outfielder. Yoan Moncada is supposed to be a third baseman. Like all these guys had their positions, and we were supposed to fill in the other stuff around them. Like,
Right.
And Robert, like these guys are all guys that were supposed to have positions. It's like all the other stuff, like the Burger Sheets, like having like a bunch of guys who are third base, first base, DH types, with, Andrew Vaughn and Jose Abreu. Yeah, that stuff, yes, roster construction. But like all these guys that were supposed to be the cornerstones of this franchise, and every single one of them can't manage to stay on the field for more than 4 weeks at a time,
Right.
without being out for 4 weeks. It's brutal,
Yeah,
man.
I mean, if you roster construction wouldn't even be a conversation if they were healthy.
If they could stay healthy, but they never can. I mean,
No.
like you could have those guys, and it would be a completely different conversation about Rick Hahn filling in pieces around these guys. The problem is that they all go away for months at a time, and he has to take those little filler piece guys, and those guys end up being a full-time role, which then they're exposed, and then it looks like, hey, why did you sign this guy? He's terrible. Well, yeah, in the position of completely filling in as a day-to-day player, yeah, he's terrible. Like Hanser Alberto. I wouldn't want him as a everyday player, but at this point, with Burger injured, with Moncada injured, it's like, who else is supposed
Tim
to play
Anderson
third base?
missed a good chunk of
exactly.
Time. He's gonna be playing a lot. He's Leury 2.0.
Unfortunately,
but at least he can hit better than the Mendoza line in most cases.
With a little bit more power, anyway. Like I don't even necessarily expect him to hit higher than 235 or whatever. Like I don't expect him to do better than that, but at least he'll do it with a little bit more power than Leury had, which is fine. And like,
I think he's a little bit more of a competent defender in more than one position as well.
Yeah,
we all know Leury really wasn't a competent defender, anywhere.
And he couldn't run the bases to save his life. Lots of stupid mistakes. And like the thing is that, like he dug his own grave in spring training this year with all the stupid mistakes he made, like just unforced stupid mental errors. Like that was, I'm 100% certain that that's why Pedro is like, I need Hanser Alberto because this guy is a court jester,
Wow.
He's just got this hat on with like bells on top of it, and just dancing around in his little what is that, with the diamonds on it? I forget what that pattern's called. But yeah.
Yeah.
Argyle?
Yeah, I know.
Is it Argyle?
Argyle. Yeah, I think it is Argyle. Something like that.
Something. Anyway, yeah, terrible. And like he cost himself his own job by just not paying attention to what he was doing and being very low IQ baseball player, which is unfortunate because I hear that he's a real he was very nice to Cole Tony, gave him a baseball. Seems like a really, really nice guy. Met him at Sox prom one year. Super nice guy. But There's lots of
Hey,
nice
look,
people
like I
that are bad
said,
at their jobs.
like I said, I don't want to say anything bad about the guy other than he just wasn't an everyday starter.
Yep,
And he did do some things to help
he did.
the team get through the worst years of the rebuild.
He did.
He gave us some entertaining moments. He came through clutch a few times when you needed him to. Everybody's going to remember the home run in the playoffs
It's true.
that meant next to nothing, but he'll be remembered for that. But when you're talking about building a winning baseball club, this is not the guy you want to see on the field day in and day out. And you don't definitely want to see him playing 7 different positions because the guys that are supposed to be in the field are not there.
And I mean,
You know,
he's not Chris
that's
Taylor.
no. The storyline is we wouldn't even be talking about Leury the way we are right now if the other guys could stay healthy the last couple of seasons, and they couldn't. They haven't been able to. And now we get into these conversations, like you said, where it's constant talk about roster construction. It's unfortunate, but it is what it is. And, blame Kenny Williams and Rick Hahn all you want. Blame the strength and conditioning staff. Blame ownership for not bringing in the proper staff to make sure that these guys are conditioned and trained in ways to keep themselves healthy. But, the fact of the matter is when you're bit by these injuries over and over and over again, probably not going to win, World Series. You're not going to be a contender year in and year out. It just is what it is. Nobody, there isn't a team in baseball that has a core of players that you can take 2 or 3 guys out for 2-3 months at a time and have them go on to win the entire thing.
Yep. I mean,
It just
you see it
doesn't
with the
happen.
Yankees. When Giancarlo Stanton and Aaron Judge are having all the health problems, they're nowhere near
No, they're
first
sitting at the
place.
bottom of their division right now.
Yep. And that's been the thing. Is trying to keep those two guys healthy. And I mean, shocker, when the two best players on the team are both injured, the team doesn't go anywhere. And you also had injuries to Garrett Cole at one point, and Carlos Rodon with his back injury. Like, that dude, talk about snake bit again.
Yeah.
He came from here,
Yeah,
so I
now they're
guess it
talking
shouldn't
about
be a
that
surprise.
right now. And, those folks that said don't sign Carlos Rodon because he's injury prone, geniuses right now.
Yeah, sure.
We saw last season what I thought was going to be the rest of Carlos Rodon's career, but it's coming out now that the disc thing is going to be a chronic issue.
Yeah.
And that could be a kick in the butt for the rest of his career. So
Yep. Brutal, man. And it's like,
I hope the best for him, obviously. Really, I mean, dude, I wanted that guy to stick around forever. But that wasn't in the stars, and neither is his health.
yeah, it's just completely unrelated to all the things that everybody said that was going to go wrong with him. Everybody's like, "Oh, that guy's arm's going to fall off."
Issue.
Yeah, and it's just like, it's like a couple feet away from his shoulder, But yeah, whatever you say, man. And I might as well call it there because I don't want to get too off on a tangent here because we will, and I don't want to do that.
No, and these are all things that we've talked about in the past. There's no reason to beat that horse.
Indeed.
Yeah,
I agree.
Bludgeoning at this point.
White Sox Daily.substack.com. You can find this podcast. Also, you can find the stream on YouTube. Just search White Sox Daily. Also, you can search White Sox Daily on Facebook. We have a group there as well. At Daily White Sox on Twitter. My name is Ian Eskridge. Eskridge on Twitter. My co-host, Danny Miller, at Danny Miller WSD. For myself and the Danny Miller, you guys have a great night, and we will see you guys next week. Thanks for popping in. Appreciate it. Night.